Well, hello, 89th Airlift Wing and Sam Fox family. I'm Colonel Steve Snelson. I'm the new commander of the 89th Airlift Wing. And by all means, this is not exactly how I envisioned my first interaction with you folks. But given COVID-19 and everything that we're trying to do to keep all of us safe and healthy, it's the best we can. So my intent for this morning is to do a little bit of an introduction about me, my foundation, what I believe in as an officer and as a person, and also go into what you can expect from me as the new wing commander. The other great part about this morning is you're going to have a chance to meet over social media Chief Araiza, our new wing command chief. He's an incredibly talented senior NCO. We are so fortunate to have him as part of our wing. So he'll get up here and he'll tell you a little bit about himself as well. So when I think about myself here as the wing commander, not in a million years, as I was a young lieutenant many years ago, would I have thought I would be a colonel in the Air Force, but be a wing commander, and then even a second-time wing commander. So to have the opportunity to be here as part of the 89th Airlift Wing, it blows my mind every single time I get up and I come to work. That said, I realize with that, having surpassed all of my expectations, I'm playing with house money. I treat every day that I come to work as an airman as possibly my last day in command and my last day in uniform. And I'm okay with that because what keeps me going, what keeps me grounded is my family, that foundation. And you can see the pictures that I have there of my two daughters and my wife. What's great about my family is they don't know me as colonel or wing commander or whatever my position is. They know me as a husband and a dad. And no matter what we do in the Air Force, no matter what rank we achieve, the one thing that we have all in common, someday we will hang up our uniform. Someday we will go back to being just dad or just a husband. And so for me personally, as I operate with house money and I think about that, I've got that foundation, that thing that keeps me grounded. So no matter what happens, I know I'm going to be okay. So as you look at my career and the bio there, and you can spend the 30 seconds glancing at that, you're going to notice something pretty glaring, something that is lagging within my record. Next slide. The elephant in the room is that I'm one of the most diehard New England Patriots and Boston Red Sox fans you will ever find. I'm not one of these new recent, Patriots fans. I grew up living and dying by how good or mostly how awful the Patriots were. And as far as the Red Sox go, I remember exactly where I was in 1986 when the Red Sox lost Game 6 of the World Series with the infamous Bill Buckner ground ball. Now, I think if we could get the next slide, the real elephant in the room and the thing that you'll notice is that I do not have any VIP-SAM experience. But I think that's okay. I think if our nation's leaders are depending on me, Steve Snelson, to be operating the most critical mission to prevent World War III, we're in much bigger trouble than you could possibly imagine. So while I may not be on the tip of the spear, my job as the wing commander is to sharpen that spear, to make sure that you and our airmen have all of the tools, everything you need at your disposal so that you are the best at flying and fighting and winning. It's a very tricky balance between me trying to learn the mission and to figure out where you need help. But that'll be my goal over the next 60 days or so, is how do I learn what you folks need to execute the mission. So as we go about and we learn about the mission, Chief Araiza and I think it's important to talk a little bit about what I believe as a leader and what keeps me focused on what's important. And this first bullet here about embracing the joy and potential of a great team. I know it sounds like a horrible bumper sticker and it makes everybody just kind of roll your eyes and say, come on. What I think about when I use this phrase is what keeps me serving. So I know a lot of you have been deployed, probably most of you, and it's an incredible thing when you deploy and you first arrive at a destination and you walk into that PERSCO briefing and you see it. These airmen walk in and they are hard charging, especially the first time deployers. They're ready to just take bars of lead, chew them up, and spit out swords because they're so excited and they're ready to execute the mission. And they walk into that PERSCO briefing and they get a laundry list of things you can and cannot do, what color disco belt to wear. Don't wear open-toed shoes because someday someone must have used bare feet to scoop salad. Whatever it is, they go in ready to chew up iron and spit out a sword, and they come out on the back half, and man, they look beat down. They look cynical, and they're exhausted. And that's okay. And I'm not saying, I'm not asking people to come to work and to slap the I believe button all the time. But what I'm asking, when you have that time, when you have those bad days at work or out on the flight line, and you start to question why we're doing it, look around at the airmen around you. Think about how exceptional this team is. Just in your office, I bet if you ask people who grew up on the East Coast or the Midwest or the West Coast or around the world, I'll guarantee you, you'll have a whole host of diverse experiences there. I like to call the Air Force, we're like a college campus of stone cold warfighters. It's this eclectic group of people that have come together with one single mission focus, ready to fly, fight, and win. And so at my worst, when I think about why I continue to serve, it's you guys. It's the airmen to my left and to my right. So when you have those bad days, go back to why do we serve? One of the things that I try to fuel every single day is that optimism, enthusiasm, and passion. And I got it. I know, again, it sounds like that's a bumper sticker, and it sounds like I'm telling you we should just pipe in that Lego movie song, "Everything is Awesome," and pretend like things are great. The Air Force isn't perfect. This wing isn't perfect, although we strive to be. But here's the hint. No branch of service, no place in uniform or out of uniform is perfect. But we all have to come to work. And so I know if I'm coming to work and if I'm putting my heart and soul into this, I'm going to do it with optimism, enthusiasm, and passion. There's a great quote from retired General Colin Powell, and he talks about how optimism is a force multiplier. And so as you are positive and you interact with folks, it's amazing what can happen around you. And I realize not every day is going to be one of those great days. I remember when I was on the joint staff, there would be days where I would just put my head against the shower wall in the morning and say to myself, I can't do it. I just can't do it. I had a really bad boss at the time who made it difficult to come to work. I always kind of operated, I didn't know whether that boss was going to be in a good mood that day or a bad mood that day. And that was an awful way to exist. That was an awful way to come to work. But as you can suspect, after I put my head up against the shower wall, I'd pick myself back up and I'd say, I can do it. I absolutely can do it, because if not me, then who? It's my job to go in there, and I'm going to be the best at what that mission is, but I'm also going to make the people around me better. I'm going to make them feel better because I can do that. There's a great data point out there of, in the civilian environment, 60% of people change their professions based off of a toxic leader or a bad boss. And for all of us, we all join the Air Force for different reasons. And you think some folks, they may have joined for education benefits or for the travel or the chance to escape a small town. Whatever program brought someone into the Air Force and recruited them, you have to remember that it's good leadership that retains them. So programs recruit airmen, good leadership retains airmen, or not. So keep that in your cross-check, and again, that's part of what keeps me balanced and try to be positive and never let what's going on around me weigh down on the people around me. Another big part that keeps me going is being bold and trying to eliminate whatever's getting in the way of us being able to execute our mission. And again, I know that sounds like a bumper sticker. We don't wake up in the morning and say, oh, I think today I'm going to be bold, or yeah, today's the day I'm going to innovate. I got it. But when I think about being bold, it's more along the lines of having the courage as a leader to fight what you know is right for our airmen and for the mission. I tilt windmills all day long, and I've done that for years of taking on different causes and different fights to try and help our airmen. And especially as a commander, I probably lose 9 out of 10 of those fights, and that's okay. A, because I think our airmen know that I'm putting it all on the table for them and for their families. But then the other part of it is when you get that one win, it's life-changing. It's life-changing for you as a leader. It's life-changing for those airmen. You think about AFIs, and as they are printed, are those etched in stone? Are those permanent where you cannot change them? Well, of course not. AFIs were meant to be changed. And so when I say be bold, what are you doing in your environment to foster that type of bold activity? As you look around within your workspace and you say, man, that just doesn't make sense. Well, what are you doing to change it? For me as a commander, you've got to know I've got your back. And if there's something that doesn't make sense, if there's something that we can and should do better, let's give it a shot. Now, I'm not saying that you can ignore the AFIs, and if you look at something and say, well, that's just dumb, and just stop doing it. There's a proper way to go after this. But fixing problems, that's what airmen do. We've got a legacy and a heritage of being bold and courageous. If we could get the next slide. One of my favorite stories is about Lieutenants Welch and Taylor. And you look at this picture here, these 2 young Army Air Corps lieutenants. And they look like they can't even drive or shave, never mind being lieutenants. But they were both pilots, and they were stationed on Oahu. And on the night of 6 December 1941, these 2 lieutenants, they were bored, and they went to a dance down on Hickam. And while they were down there, they got bored, and so they went and they got involved in an all-night poker game. And so they finished that poker game and they went back to their barracks early in the morning. No sooner had they laid down when all of a sudden they started hearing the Japanese Zeros attacking Pearl Harbor and Hickam Field. So at that critical moment, these 2 airmen, they were faced with a choice. I could get in a shelter, I could protect myself, or I could be courageous. I could put my life on the line and do what I was trained to do. And of course, these 2 airmen, they did what they were supposed to do. They picked up the phone, they called the airfield where their airplanes were, and they said, gas them up, arm them up. And these 2 airmen, as they drove to that airfield, they were getting strafed by Japanese fighters. They got to the airfield, they hopped in their 2 airplanes, and off they took off. It was 2 versus 200. These 2 airmen knew what they were about to do probably was a suicide mission, and yet they didn't hesitate for one instant. They got up there, they engaged the enemy. Between the 2 of them, one pilot shot down 4 airplanes, the other one shot down 2 airplanes. And as bold and courageous as that was, after they expended all their ammunition and their gas and they landed their airplanes back down on the ground, they said, gas them up again, arm us up again. They took off and did a second mission in the middle of that absolute huge, massive, unwinnable dogfight. Now, while we're out there as Sam Fox airmen executing this mission, I hope none of us are ever faced with a decision or a choice as difficult as what Lieutenant Welch and Taylor had to go through. But we face tough circumstances, and you will be asked to make courageous and bold decisions. And I just want you to know that between Chief Araiza and myself, we've got your back. We expect you to be bold, and we want you to get out there and make those tough calls, and we'll cover down. This last bullet on here about respecting the cardinal rule and not embarrassing yourself, your family, or your unit, I know that sounds like the obligatory kind of dad commander thing of us having to come out and say, well, everybody behave, and for 99% of you, you're going to roll your eyes and say, yeah, I got it. This goes beyond the basics of what you think about getting in trouble, about showing up to work on time. This has much more to do with treating everybody around you with dignity and respect, about fostering an environment where harassment not only isn't encouraged, but is persecuted and absolutely prosecuted and ended. We've seen a lot recently about inequality and about the importance of diversity. And this wing, your offices, are no different. So as far as Chief Araiza and myself are concerned, we will treat everyone with dignity and respect. We will foster an environment where everyone's ideas, no matter where they are from, no matter what their backgrounds, no matter how diverse their upbringing, they will be valued. That is non-negotiable. Because at the end of the day, this also isn't about just paperwork. It's not about getting in trouble or getting promoted. This is the core of what we do as airmen. This is how we retain the faith of the American public and the democracy-loving countries around the world, by adhering to those core values. And so help us do that part within your organizations and maintain that dignity and respect. Because every single time we get in trouble, every time we falter, or every time we fail within that portfolio, we're doing the airman's job. We're not able to execute that mission. So I'm gonna wrap up now with what you can expect from me as the wing commander. First and foremost, it's transparency and honesty. I'll guarantee you I'm going to make more mistakes before 9 a.m. than most of you will make in an entire week. And that's okay, as long as it's a mistake of the head. It's a mistake of something that I didn't know about. But I promise you I will not make a mistake of the heart. I will work as hard as I can to do what I believe is right for our airmen and for this wing. And as I make those decisions, as we have those hard conversations, we will be open and honest with you about the why behind many of those. And we'll try to get out to you as quickly as we can. The other thing is, as a wing commander is hard work. Perfection is the standard. I know it sounds incongruous. I just said I'll guarantee I'll make mistakes, but perfection is the standard. I know every one of us out there, none of us are perfect, but we strive for that perfection. And part of my foundation of what I will do is leave nothing on the table. I will put everything out there, and I will work as hard as I can for you, your families, and this mission. Empathy, again, I can't be out there every single spot in every single office, and I don't think you want me and Chief out there. You'd be far more productive without us there, and especially, in a place like this, in APS, where they are just crushing the mission every single day. But while we can't be there side by side helping you execute that mission, what we can do is hear your challenges, hear what is on your minds, and hear what's troubling you and your families, and then do our best to fight and to get you what you need. The last thing is what our organizational priorities will be, what our mission is, our vision, all of those things. I'll be honest with you, I have no idea right now. Coming in here, Chief Araiza and I, we've seen many different organizations. We've got more tours coming up here. And the one thing that both of us realize is this wing is in incredible shape. You guys are crushing the mission. So while we may tweak left or right some of what we're doing, right now I think our vision, our mission, and our priorities, they're where we need to be. But I'll work with your leaders, and obviously, if you have different ideas, if you think there's something that we need to be doing differently and better, man, have the courage to speak up. Have that bold leadership to solicit that feedback from your airmen to say, hey, what can we do better? Because the only way that we're going to maintain Sam Fox perfection is if we work together. So at this time, I'm going to throw it over to our new Wing Command Chief, Chief Tony Araiza. As I said before, he's an incredible airman. He's been in our Air Force for over 20 years. He started out as a radio communications technician, transitioned over to being an air traffic controller, and in the time there has had an incredible career as an instructor down at Lackland, many deployments down into some great locations and some not so great locations, but he, above all, at the core of what makes him tick, is caring for airmen and their families. So with that, Chief Araiza, over to you.
All right, I got it, boss. Thank you for the introduction. Greetings, 89th Airlift Wing. I'm Chief Master Sergeant Tony Araiza, your new command chief, and I'd like to take just a couple of minutes to talk to you about three things that I think are important. Why I serve, why I stayed in the military, and why I'm here with you today. Now, these are things that you will not find in anybody's bio, but I think they're just as important because it lets you learn a little bit more about that airman behind the uniform. Now, why do I serve? Family. If you were to see a picture of my family, you'd see a picture of two young boys, little Tony, who's 13 years old and not so little anymore. You'd see little Julian, who's 8 years old and has a soccer ball by his feet all the time. He collects sticks and he collects gemstones. He seems to think that geology rocks, but I told him that geography is where it's at. You would also see a picture of a little lady. Her name's Bella, 2 years old, and she's the energy, the joy, and the trouble around the house. And then you would see my beautiful wife, Grace, who is just as passionate about the Air Force and seems to love this as much as I do. So I look forward to you meeting them in these next few months. But I mentioned family, and I would suggest that every one of us, you and I, are doing what we're doing every day to protect our interests, to protect our way of life, but to protect our family, most importantly, because if not me, and if not you, then who? Now, family is a big reason why I joined, but I'd like to talk to you about why I stayed. Throughout my career, I always had mentors. I had people that cared about me before they even knew me. That's the magic and the powerful, how powerful it is to be a supervisor, right? You are entrusted with caring for somebody that you haven't even met yet. So throughout my career, I've had somebody that was always giving me feedback. I had somebody that was always tearing me down and building me back up. But most importantly, they gave me opportunities for growth. And I do got to admit that when I first came in, it was about getting paid. But throughout the years, it's like my mentors, it's been more about the outcome than it has been about the income. In addition, I've deployed, like Colonel Snelson mentioned, I've done a lot of different jobs that really helped me realize that what we do really matters. And I'd like to let you know that what you do, every one of you, what we do really, really matters, and it makes a difference. And every deployment, every job, every PCS helped me realize that everything that we do makes a difference. Now, throughout the years, I've also understood a little bit more about the organization that we belong to. And oftentimes I've taken a step back just to sit and think intentionally and deliberately about what we do and what the Air Force does for us. So I'd like to bring up a reason why North Korea was in the news other than what they normally are in the news for, right? So as recent as last year, some of you may recall that they were in the news because we repatriated some of our brothers and sisters from the North Korean War. Now, why is that important? The North Korean War happened in the 1950s, and here we are in 2019 now, 2020, 70 years later, and we are bringing our brothers and sisters back to join them with their families. Now, if you really sit and think about it, that is the organization that we belong to. We belong to an organization that 70 years later is still working hard to reunite our brothers and sisters with their loved ones back home. Now, that's the organization that we belong to, and it's a pretty amazing organization. So that's why I'm here with you at the 89th Airlift Wing as your new Command Chief Master Sergeant. And why am I here? I'd like to start with the last word of that duty title, the word sergeant. It's derived from the Latin word servire, which means to serve. It means servant. And just like every other chief around the wing, we are here as your chief master servants, and we're here to serve each and every one of you. Now, part of that servant leadership is to make sure that we are growing the leaders around us, right? I would offer that a future Chief Master Sergeant of the Air Force is walking out there, and it might be one of our airmen in the 89th Airlift Wing. A future commander is out there amongst our CGOs, amongst our lieutenants and captains. So I'm here to offer those leadership opportunities and to make sure that everybody here is offered the opportunity for growth, regardless of who you are or where you come from. Lastly, I want to say thank you. I am very humbled and very honored to be here, and I joined Colonel Snelson for the next few years. And we're excited, looking forward to joining you in Sam Fox Wing, where perfection is the standard.
Thanks, Chief Araiza, and thanks to Sam Fox Nation for staying with us and watching this video and learning a little bit about me and Chief. Want to throw out there, again, happy 4th of July as we head into the long weekend. We hope you guys have a great weekend, but also very safe. You'll also by now know that the base, Joint Base Andrews, transitioned to Health Protection Condition Bravo. So with that is increasing some of the services that the base is providing. That said, we ask all of you, please make sure you're following social distancing guidelines like me and my socially distant wingman are doing right now. Make sure you're wearing your cloth face coverings as you're out there and being safe. Just because the base changes an HP con condition, it doesn't mean that COVID-19 is going to pay attention to that. We still have a mission to execute in our community, our friends, and especially the people that we work with, and our adversaries are watching how we respond and what we do. So with that, folks, we'll see you around Sam Fox.